Hey guys, and welcome to the first episode of Fund, Flip, Repeat, brought to you by Fixed Lending. I'm your go-to guy for private hard money, your banker, Joel Cadlick, and joining me today is Mr. Cultivate Real Estate himself, Justin Foster. So, Justin, thanks for hopping on, guys. We're super excited. This is our first episode of Fund, Flip, Repeat, and we are just going to jump right into it. So, there we go. We're all about ringing the victory bell here.
Well, let's kick it off, man. I'm super excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So today what I want to do is talk about why we are starting this podcast, what our hopes are for it, how we can add value with it, but also the name in particular, why we came up with Fund, Flip, Repeat. Not just a fancy name that we came up with, but what it really actually means. And we'll kind of lightly touch on that today. But before we get into the episode and the meat and potatoes of it, Justin, can you kind of just give a brief summary or background of, where you've come from as far as real estate, what your journey is, and how we've ended up here?
So Joel and I have been partnered together for many years now, and we funded and flipped and repeated that process many, many times since 2020. And before that, we were running parallel paths in real estate where, we've been doing this, I don't know how long, Joel, over a decade now. And now we're at the place where we're passionate about helping other people in our community in Tulsa and Oklahoma City be able to develop and grow their net worth and increase their cash flow. And at the end of the day, spend more time doing whatever matters to them. And so for us, this is an opportunity for us to share with you the resources that we've developed over the years and the skills and the trades and the techniques, but it's also an opportunity to put a spotlight on you. That's the hope here. So we really want to have folks who are successful come on here and share and be generous with what's working for them and how you can take that and repeat that into your process and make it your own. So this is all meat and potatoes. There's nothing that we're, necessarily holding back from you. We're all going to just give it away for free. And we've invested a lot into the real estate game for many, many years. And so your success is tied to everybody's success. And we just don't believe that there's any competition. There's only collaboration. So we're here to work with you and we're to help in any way we can along the way.
Yeah, that's a beautiful summary. It's not just us coming saying, hey, we've done a couple of deals. Let's hop on here. Let's do a podcast. Let's try, engage that way. It's like, hey, we've done this for years. We've spent a lot in education. We have made mistakes. We have done a little bit of everything when it comes to that. When it comes to fix and flips or rentals or land or commercial or lending money. And just like Justin said, we want this to be an atmosphere of being a go-giver. So especially if you guys haven't read the book Go-Giver, we'll put that in the show notes, but Bob Burg, The Go-Giver, awesome book, highly recommend it. And kind of going off of that as well is one thing we're excited about, not only this podcast, but the Facebook group that we just created as well. It's called Fund, Flip, Repeat Meetup. And that meetup is going to be a live meetup that we have here locally as well. Again, we'll put that in the show notes, but just want to have this whole thing be a fun journey for all of us. So
that's a good way of saying it. The season of hustle, there's seasons of hustle. And a friend of ours likes to say, hustle is a season, not a lifestyle. And if you're in the fun, flip, repeat process, you might be hustling and you might be feeling like you're getting tired. And this is going to be about how do you make your season of hustle fun? How do you do more, scale more, grow more, and do that in such a way where you have a lot of fun doing it? And that's something that we were able to do. And now we've pivoted into the lending side to be able to help you. And so really that's the crux of it, because it doesn't have to be a grind. It doesn't have to be a slugfest. It can be a lot of fun as you grow.
Yeah, and naturally you're going to have those hard times, right? You're going to experience those slugfests. But if that's 100% of your experience, we would want to change that experience for you. We definitely want that to be not as much, and then moving into, having fun, like we were saying as well. And with the experience, some of those difficulties, some of those obstacles, some of those things that you have experienced, become more palatable, meaning you've exercised that muscle more. You've seen those obstacles multiple different times. So it's just something that you can easily handle when they do come up. So those are things that we'll drill down to as well. Not just the fun, sunshiny stuff. Justin said earlier, hey, this is all meat and potatoes, no fluff. We really want to drill down into actionable stuff that you could take away from each episode and implement that day. Now, this episode is a little bit more of an introduction, an overview, but I'm telling you guys, we are going to drill down. We're going to have free downloadables, and we're always going to be available to contact us as well if you want to reach out, and we can drill down with you in person too. So super excited about it.
Bam.
All right. Well, like I said earlier, I want to circle back and I want to talk a little bit about why we started, where we came up with the name Fund, Flip, Repeat. Okay. And basically, we see this as a 3-pillar method. Now, most of us, or some of you, have probably heard of the BRRRR method. That's a B with 4 R's, right? Buy, rehab, rent, repeat, refinance. Well, that focuses more on holds and creating your rental portfolio, which is absolutely awesome. And that's a great method. The FFR method that we're coining here, Fund, Flip, Repeat, is about everything, and it encompasses everything. It sounds simple because there's only 3 pillars, but there's a lot to unpack in each pillar, and that's what we're going to do on each episode. And pretty much what the podcast is going to be about is, what does it look like in the funding stage? Why does it need to look that way? What are tips and tricks for that? What does it look like in the flip stage? What does it look like in the repeat phase? How can I make sure my systems are running better? So anyways, that's kind of where we came up with the name, and something that we've implemented ourselves. And those are the things that we're going to be talking about. So the first one is fund, right? So that's the funding stage. Before we get into the fund stage though, and kind of overview that a little bit, Justin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I mean, if you can make this business simple and understand it as a simple model, you're going to have more fun. And so you don't need all these complicated processes and all these complicated ways of understanding and creativity and doing deals. We believe that the more simple you make it, the more you're able to niche down and focus and specialize so that you can grow your business. And so it might sound simple to say fund, flip, repeat, but it really is rooted in sort of an understanding of, the fact that you're pretty complicated and business is simple. This game is simple. And so you got to get yourself out of the way. A lot of people are just standing in their own way, and we'll leave it at that. We've worked with a lot of people where we see that that's 95% of the problem. And if you can follow some of these simple, actionable steps that we go through and have a model that's a very simple framework, that's what the BRRRR method does. And that's why it caught on very simply, is because people are able to see how they could do cash out refinances and do that in an iterative way, right? So that's the important thing to understand about sort of a 3-pronged approach to your business being successful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I 100% agree with that. And one thing that you said that stood out is, investors are difficult, business is easy, and we can definitely overcomplicate things. Hey, the formulas and the metrics are good, right? And those are good to have, especially when you understand them and you're doing some more advanced things. But ultimately, everything at the end of the day can come back as, was this project successful or was it not? And how do you answer that question? Did it make money or did it lose money? You can do your internal rates of return and your 16-page Excel spreadsheets, but it all boils down to, was this a good, profitable investment or was it not? Why and why not? And being able to answer those questions very simply. So what we're going to try to do in this podcast as well is break it down simply. So
absolutely. So Joel, let's get into each of these pillars and talk about, why they're important. What do you mean? What do you need for funding? Well, let's simplify that. We believe, some people say that you got to have money to make money. You don't have to have money to make money. I mean, I'll prove it to you. You trade your money for other people's knowledge and for other people's energy all the time. If you flip a house, you might hire an attorney to help you set up your LLC before you go and take title to that house. It's a good idea. It's asset protection. You're paying them for their knowledge, right? So they're trading their knowledge for money. So knowledge is money. And then you pay your contractors, and they're providing energy into the deal, and
Right.
they provide that for money. And so you can do the same thing with money and deals, right? So you need other people's money to go and make deals work, but you have to have a deal. So there's really two key components to the fund stage. It would be the acquisitions, and we believe that acquisitions is like revenue, and you should put that in first position. And then the
Right.
funding stage, because most people don't necessarily have piles and piles of money where they're self-funding 100% of real estate. It's capital intensive. It takes a lot of money, and you don't need to have your own in it. You can use other people's. So that's called leverage.
Yeah.
You want to do that safely. The way you do that safely is you find great deals and you're a deal maker.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I would add to that as well, because it is something that we wanted to kind of put first, right? Obviously, you're going to fund, and then you're going to flip, and then you're going to repeat. But it is such an important part that can be easily either overlooked or just mistreated in a way to where your deal is not going to be as successful as it could be. And what do I mean by that? Is as entrepreneurs, as investors, when we think about, oh, I need to go get funding, or I need to go talk to the banks, or I need to talk to a private hard money lender, your reaction might be like, oh, I got to get my spreadsheets, I got to get my scope of work, I've got to, send them whatever they're asking, I got to get insurance. And it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like something, I just want to get to the fun stuff, and I want to get to the flipping part. I just want to get this over with, and I don't want to focus on it. But guys, the most important part of the process is the fun part, because that is the part where you're going to be planning and executing for becoming a master at what you do. So when your plan is in place and it's a strong plan, you don't have to worry about the next 6 months as if you rushed the beginning and then the rest of the 6 months ran you. Make sure you take that extra time, 2-3 weeks, to pour into the planning, so then the rest of that process will work for you. That is one thing that can easily be seen as, funding, let me just get the money and let me run with it. It's the money is super important during that funding phase to treat as the planning stage as well. So
100%. What about the flip stage?
Yeah, well, the flip stage is that's the most fun, right? Now we're getting into it. We might have people listening who like to swing the hammer themselves and do the demo and get into it and take the photos. And I love that stuff as well. When we were doing high volume transaction, single family real estate ourselves doing flips and stuff, I shot a commercial once, and I had this big jackhammer, and I ran it into the drywall. Unfortunately,
Get
the
your bags of
contractor
cash,
just had
call
done it.
Fix Properties.
Yeah, the jingle, all that. Yeah, it was fun. So this is the fun part, right? But now that you've spent all that time up front planning during the fund phase, now you're in the flip phase, and you can have that fun if you've planned correctly. The one thing you don't want to do is close on the property and then be like, man, I underestimated $20,000 in repairs. And again, your next 6 months are like super stressful. Where am I going to get it? Do you think my lender will readjust the scope of work? All those things is like, we want to eliminate that so you can actually execute the way you're supposed to be executing in the flip stage, which is ultimately the execution stage. So
100%. You're only as good as your operation. You are only as good as how well you can execute. And the better you execute, the more deals you can do, the more repeatable this process is, the more the funding finds you. And so that all plays, these three things all play together synchronous in
synchronicity.
That's a big word. I don't even know what that word means. They all work together. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And so, don't feel like you can skip anything or cut any corners on your flip, on your operations. Everything hinges on that. How good are you as an operator depends on how well you're going to continue to be able to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not something you want to enter into in hodgepodge, because it is something that can be a wonderful, beautiful thing, a vehicle that could skyrocket you. You could scale, do multiple 7 figures, but it can also have the other effect. It
Yes.
can really, really hurt. It can be stressful. It could be something that puts you out of the game. And that's not what you want to do, because guys, it really is kind of breaking it down super simply. Fund, flip, repeat. if I can do it, Justin can do it, anybody can do it, like 100%. And we're not just saying that as a cliche. Like if I can do it, anybody can do it. Like it's 100% true. What I was doing before this, before I was in real estate and before I was investing, I'll tell you what I was doing. It was super, super sexy. And I was cleaning toilets and I was scrubbing floors for a house cleaning company. Like, come on. So when I say it, I mean it.
100%. The bottom is a very solid foundation to start from, by the way.
Yeah.
So while he was scrubbing toilets, man, I was hanging out with homeless folks and jobless. And that's a great place to start. You know, if you're just starting out and you're doing your first flip, you don't have to have mastery. You need to borrow the confidence of other people, though, so that you can make sure you can check your blind spots and shortcut some things.
1 second there. So I want to pause because I think it's important what you just said. You said borrow other people's confidence. Like what do you mean by that? And explain that a little bit more.
Well, I mean, if you're, if you are buying a property and it's your first property and somebody, Joel, you have a closing checklist, for instance. It's all the things that you need to do to be able to close a property. You need insurance. Yep. You need to make sure that the title is clear. You need to get the keys to the property, so on and so forth. Well, those checklists, you have to understand, they get written in people's blood. And so if you could just take Joel's checklist and not have to create your own from like sticky notes on your desk from day one, that's a really good deal. And you have to understand what you're getting when you're getting somebody else's checklist, for instance. And what we mean by flip or operations is we mean standard operating procedures. What we mean by standard operating procedures is we mean the ingrained things in your business that you have to do to have your business serve other people in the community. And so a checklist is really where the action happens there, and you're able to, create that as a system. And so that's a long way of saying, well, if you can borrow somebody else's, that's a really good deal if you know how to use it. It's better than, going through the painful lessons yourself and bleeding yourself on, for instance, the loss you might get on, not insuring a property and then a tornado hits it and now you're wiped out and out of the game. So there's a reason that those things are there. And you want to borrow other people's confidence and processes.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? I mean,
that's leverage.
Copy paste, yes, and it's let me copy paste this into my business. It's what we do all the time with different things that we're participating in. And guys, I'll give you a tip right now. Here's a pro tip. There's also this awesome technology that's called ChatGPT. I know we've heard of it. That thing is a master too, right? You can input some stuff into there and say, hey, build me a checklist off of this. If let's say you borrowed someone else's, like Justin said, hey, this is not exactly the way I want it or need it to look. Well, alter it or, leverage ChatGPT and borrow some of that as well. I mean, it's a super powerful tool. We're not going to get into AI right now and deep dive that, but it made me think of that. It's an amazing thing. So
yeah, what we're talking about is leverage. So it's not just funding and capital that's leverage. You can also leverage other people's knowledge, leverage other people's experience, leverage other people's network, leverage other people's skills. And so you have to understand how to use leverage to make this fun.
Yeah. Well, and that's great too. And I think that brings it home a little bit about what we're trying to do here is guys, we're an open book. We're going to just tell you what we've done, what we haven't done, why we haven't done it, why we have done it, where we failed. And here's some resources on our website, and let's go, hang out at the meetup here locally and just have fun with it. So, I mean, that's exactly right.
Well, let's talk about the repeat process, Joel. So the thing that I love about the repeat process is that that's the game that you want to play. So you don't want to play a game where you go out and, I guess if we could all win the lotto and we played one game and then we just retired on a beach, and some people dream about that. But in business, it works better if you think about it being a repeatable thing. It works like clockwork, in and out, over and over and over again. And if you start with that mindset, you're going to be a much more pleasant person to do business with. So we want a repeatable process like McDonald's, where we serve other people in our community, where the way in which we work with other people in our business causes them to want to give us more business. And it's a self-fulfilling sort of machine is what you're building. And so the repeat step is super important. So Joel, kind of get into it and how you would lay it out.
Yeah, I mean, just like the other two pillars, I mean, this third pillar is arguably, well, it is. It's arguably one of my favorite pillars. I mean, they all are, right? But the reason I say that is this is where you take your success to the next level. It's about reinvesting, scaling, and building momentum. Okay, so that's always fun. We always like to talk about that, but we want to talk about that realistically too. So, but one thing that's a part of the repeat process too that might be overlooked, and the reason we put it into the repeat process is because when you're going for the repeat, you have to have something queued up and ready for the next project, or to keep your guys working if you have a crew, as an example. And what does that mean? It means you need to have deal flow. It means you have some kind of sales going on, or maybe you're doing some marketing, or maybe you're somebody who just wants to do, one house every 6 months and you do 2 houses a year. Well, you're still going to have to plan for that repeat because it takes time to find that next deal and secure that next asset and perform that next job. So the repeat process encompasses a lot of stuff, but it brings it down to reality from, hey, yeah, let's scale and let's go big and let's blow up our margins, to like, hey, we really have to focus on making sure that this machine or whatever you're building is being fed. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a machine. It can just be, a few deals, like I said, but that still needs to be nurtured just as much as, a big company, a small company, if it's just you in the house doing the repairs.
I like nurtured, I mean, I think that's a better metaphor than the machine, although the cogs in a wheel has its place. At the end of the day, this business and many businesses are based on relationships.
Yeah.
Right. And so, for instance, if you're not going to repeat, the process of, flipping a house and making a big payday, if you keep burning through contractors, and you come in there and you're hard on your contractors and you're setting high expectations, but you're not giving the level of support that they need. If you're not paying them well enough, they're going to go work for somebody else where they get the repeat business and
Right.
they get treated better. And so that's the foundation that you want to build from, which is, you got this little new relationship with a contractor, give it the best chance of succeeding, start off on the right foot, and pay them a fair wage. Set the expectations, set the incentives so that they're able to continue to come back and want to do more. So many things evolve around incentives in terms of how repeatable it is. So you might have the best of intentions there and want to treat people well, but the incentives are misaligned from your contractors, and there's a fundamental shift you might be able to tweak there to, for instance, cover some of your downside and give them a little bit more upside and a little bit more carrot to be able to move quicker through the process with better quality work. So this is an example of what it means to look at that repeat step and how that translates to the intricacies of the business. It's a relationship, and a lot of times, and you're starting from that foundation.
And it's interesting too, because you might be like, well, Justin, why are you talking about the contractor? Isn't that in the flip stage? But I thought it was really interesting because it does show how much each stage can really unpack. Yes, there's a place for the contractor in the flip stage, but there's also a place for the contractor in the repeat phase. And, I thought you said it really nicely as far as like, hey, yeah, you can go ahead and execute and do the flip. But if you're wanting to do another one, you got to treat that contractor the right way. It's about relationship. It's, who you're listing it with, the realtor, or if you're staging it, or, your subcontractors, or whoever it is. There's a lot of people involved in this, right? But they all should be someone who you see as part of your team, and someone you treat like, hey, you've got a seat on my bus, and let's go do this together. And this is what I want to do. And you'll have people roll with you with that. So I thought it was really good that we're talking about contractors in the repeat phase, because there is a lot to unpack in each stage.
So the process of this fund, flip, repeat is really going to be centered on and wrapped up in this idea that you don't have to do it all. Right. You don't have to go get all the money. You don't have to swing the hammer. You don't have to necessarily go and get all the deals yourself, right? And feed the machine by doing your own marketing. You can. And you need to be you. Okay? So that is the game that you're actually playing. And this is going to be a podcast where we give you the secret, the real secret to making it fun. The real secret to making it fun is that you are able to work with other people that are specialized in the things that you don't enjoy, and you integrate that into your business to make it win-win for everybody, where everybody's going to be, doing well, much better than you otherwise would have if you would have gone at it alone. So if you're going it alone and you have that sort of, I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps, that's simply not our experience. That's not how we've done it. That's not how our partnership has flourished over the years. It's not how we've been able to grow our net worth and increase our cash flow and buy back our time. The way we were able to do that is to recognize where we're weak in this process, and then we compensate for that by building a team and building a business that serves other people in the market that allows us to focus on what we're strong on. So you're going to hear some of that, and the importance of relationships is absolutely critical. But what that ultimately is your ticket to freedom, like sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to emphasize though, when we say building a team, it doesn't have to be this monster team. You've got this sales floor, and we're not saying that. It's going to look different. Maybe that's something you do want. Maybe it's something you want, very small. Maybe, you and your wife are doing this together. All of that is fine. But when we're talking about a team, more specifically, it is about, hey, who's my contractor? Who's my real estate agent? Who's maybe my attorney? Who's my CPA? That's the type of team that you're looking to have. And anybody in business is going to need that to be successful. And it doesn't have to be this monster thing. Of course, it can be. And, if that's the decision and pathway you want to choose, that's great. But I just wanted to say, hey, team doesn't mean like this is just
good
a
point.
monster business. So
team just means the people that you're surrounding yourself with, that you're doing this with. Absolutely. And the small and mighty teams, those are the ones that tend to be some of the most fun, because you get to know people better that way anyway. We're not big, and we're the keep it small, keep it all kind of guys anyway. We're not running some sort of monster business, but we really enjoy what we do, and get to work with you all that are listening to this.
Yeah. Well, this is great. I'm so excited. Okay, so we're going to be talking about mastering fund, flip, repeat. Unpacking it all. Super simple stuff, actionable items. Very excited. But guys, before we go, I did want to say a couple of things. I'll turn it over to you, Justin, too, if you had any final words. But if you find anything in this podcast or episodes that we're putting out valuable in any way, please share, please be a go-giver, and you just never know, it might just help somebody else out too. So guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I also wanted to say our meetup that we mentioned in the beginning of the episode, we just launched that. It's called Fund, Flip, Repeat Meetup. It's a Facebook group we just started, and we're going to be doing local in-person meetups there as well. So really looking forward to having this community of go-givers, sharing resources, giving advice, giving feedback. Justin and I are always open to feedback too. Hey, do this on your podcast, so on and so forth. We're an open book, guys. So again, it's all about collaboration, not competition. Justin, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, one of the things that I hate about influencers is that they put themselves in the spotlight and they beat their chest. It's annoying. And so if we ever do that, you feel permission to like punch me or slap me at the meetup that we have. But our hope is that, look, we can put you in the spotlight and really highlight some really great operators that are out there, and be very honest about what it takes to make this business a successful business for you and your family. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. And so hopefully, we were able to connect, and you kind of like what we're putting out there. Agreed. We'd love for you to share it just for the sake of helping other folks that are going to be doing this. And it's going to be a great adventure.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Justin. And we'll see you guys next week. Every week on Tuesday, we'll be dropping a new episode. God bless.
Bam.